Welcome to Miss Teacher Tube Green Edition with Janice Leon. Today we're going to talk all things AeroGarden. We're going to talk about my first AeroGarden unit, the AeroGarden Harvest 6-pod system. Now, I started out with the Salsa Garden, which probably was a little adventurous, seeing it was my first try out with the AeroGarden, but I thought, what could go wrong? It didn't turn out quite the way I anticipated. There were some scary moments for my little pepper plants along the way, but it ended up being quite a beautiful thing. I'll show you that and more in today's episode. See you soon. Welcome back. So here we are in my little gardening quarter in my kitchen. This is only one side of it. There's more that direction, but we're going to focus on my AeroGarden Harvest today, and you'll see the other ones in other videos. So today, this is what my AeroGarden Harvest looks like. It is a 6-pod unit. The light expands upward to 24 inches if needed, so you kind of move it up as your plants grow. With this particular unit, well, it used to have peppers on this side, jalapeno peppers, and these are the heirloom cherry tomatoes. So originally I bought the Salsa Kit, which was a little adventurous for the first time out. So of course I was away for a couple of days, and that's when my little pepper plants really decided to blossom in height, and they ended up growing this tall. And that does not fit my AeroGarden. So when in the midst of their growing, their leaves got all caught up in the lights. And unfortunately, when that happens, it damages their leaves tremendously. So if you want to look close at the leaves, see those little discolored marks? That's because basically those leaves got a little bit burnt in those areas from getting all tangled up in my light system. So needless to say, when I got home, I was horrified. I felt so bad for my little peppers that I immediately decided I was going to pull them out. I did a little bit of online research about topping peppers. So this one I topped, which means I cut the top to limit the height it can grow, but still, for some reason, these side leaves still wanted to mesh up into my lights. They just really are drawn to the light. So I was just really stressed out about my poor little jalapeno plants. So what I ended up doing was actually physically removing them from my AeroGarden. Now they're quite sizable plants, so if you see that much growth above ground, your root structure is going to be substantial. So I would suggest if you're growing the Salsa Kit, you cut your top of your peppers, you top them sooner, way before they get up to your lights on your unit. Once they touch the lights, it's kind of game over. I mean, you can cut them down more, but I'm a little worried that you might be traumatizing the plant too much, and it can only handle so much. So these I just cut the very top off. When I was doing my research, it said when you're topping peppers, you want to top where the Y is. So if you look at the one I didn't top, see where the Y is? It's like most of the plant. So I really didn't want to cut that off. And all of my little peppers, you can see my little peppers are hanging here while they're flowers at the moment. But they're all above the Y. So I really didn't want to cut all my pepper plants off there because I'm literally cutting off the peppers, which didn't appeal to me at all. So I cut 2 to try save them. And then when I realized it was still a problem with my lights, I decided they have to come out. So now when you look inside the AeroGarden, and like you can actually lift this platform up to see the root structure underneath. So you can see my tomatoes have a tremendous root structure. So did my jalapenos on this side. I've replaced my jalapenos with romaine lettuce that I'm growing here. So now I have to constantly groom this side and trim these tomato plants so that they don't overtake the romaine side because they're drawn to the light. There's a little bit of a competition for the light. So if they can span out their leaves and suck up all of the light, they will, and then they'll block my romaine. So if you ever have to remove one side of your AeroGarden, just please groom the other side so it doesn't overtake what little things you're trying to grow. So now this is the one thing I have to be very careful about, is grooming this so it does not overtake this little side. Now my my tomatoes on this side are actually doing quite well. Now I was worried because I did have to cut the roots to separate them from my tomatoes. I had to cut the roots of these plants literally with gardening scissors. It was more painful for me than I'm sure it was for the plant, but really, I thought they were going to die. All of the leaves sagged down. They looked really sad and pathetic. So I put them against my window. I put them under my LED lights in full-on sun in the window, watered them like crazy. And, you know, of course I have drainage holes in the bottom. I don't want to drown them, but I watered them in soil and hope for the best. And really within 24 hours, they perked back up and the leaves became all firm again and they looked much happier. So what you're seeing today is a way happier plant than when I first pulled them out of the AeroGarden. If you pull them out, don't take the plastic basket off, just plant them basket and all, because if you try to do that, you're going to further traumatize the roots. And really, it's not worth killing the plant over. When the plant dies in the future, you can always reuse the little plastic basket on it and just cut away the root structure. But these guys should live like well over a year and continue to give jalapeno peppers. So really, if you baby them and take care of them, they should actually last a long time. From what I've researched, we'll see if mine lasts that long. So far, so good. The ones that I did top, you can see they have new leaves. Here, I'll come a little closer again to the camera. They have new leaves coming up in around where I cut them. So the top is kind of restructuring itself. So I have a feeling that it'll start looking more like this one sometime soon, but it's going to take a lot longer for this one to generate peppers than this one. So I'll keep you posted on my jalapeno peppers. With respect to the heirloom tomatoes, I did a little research on pollinating, and I mean, you can do many things to pollinate if you want to do it yourself. You can put a little fan out and focus it on them to kind of blow the pollen around. I'm not a fan, for no pun intended, for that method. But then the other method was just to vibrate them, shake the plant. I thought, you know, all the trauma with the root cutting, I don't want to start shaking this poor thing. It's had enough. So I went with a third pollination technique. And at first I was using like an electric toothbrush, an old one. I put a new head on it because I don't want to introduce toothpaste or anything like that to my little plants. And I would vibrate near the flowers with it. That's one method. But then online, you know, I have to admit, I got the bee. You be the pollinator. This is also an AeroGarden item. It's $30, which in my opinion is a ridiculous price point. But this little guy doesn't vibrate nearly as vigorously as my electric toothbrush did. In fact, my electric toothbrush was so powerful, I was a little worried for the flower. So this one, it really sounds a lot like a bee. It's kind of gentle. It's like super cute. Look at that. And literally you just put it on each flower and you are the bee. You go from flower to flower and you pollinate them all. And this will ensure that you have tomato growth. So in the next little clip, I'm going to give you a close-up view of my little flowers and my little tomatoes that are starting to form in that side of the AeroGarden. My romaine lettuce has already started to pop up. It's very tiny. And the AeroGarden, when you buy their kits, they send these little cups for over top of the germinating seeds. So you can get pre-seeded ones and you can get do-it-yourself too. I'll talk about do-it-yourself pods later because I've got some of those on the go in another AeroGarden. With these, again, I've used these on other little seedlings that aren't in an AeroGarden just because they tend to draw the light in nicely. They keep the moisture and heat in. They're a nice little unit. So I wouldn't throw these out. I'd hang on to them because you might find them handy for other growing projects. I'm going to do a focus and zoom in on my little romaine lettuce that started to grow and show you what my flowers and my baby tomatoes look like. See you soon. Okay, so here's another angle of my AeroGarden. I'm just gonna slowly go in. You can see my little tomatoes have started to grow, and you can see that here is one little flower. I've already pollinated it. After you pollinate it, it goes a dark yellow instead of a bright light yellow, and then it dries up and it falls off, and in its place you get these little tiny tomatoes growing. I've got a rather impressive one down here, right there. Right there. So these will continue to grow, and I've got quite a few other flowers I've pollinated and other little baby tomatoes. It's really important that when you're at this stage, that if you have any leaves that grow over top of your flowers or your little tomatoes, that you cut them off so that the light can get to those. It's very important. Now here is my little romaine lettuce that started to grow. Now keep this on until the romaine touches it, and then you can take it off. This one started a little bit later. And then this one here is quite beautiful. These grew very, very quickly. You keep the caps on just until you have the romaine touching the top, and then you can remove them. The hose you're seeing back here is my AeroVoir, which is a giant water reservoir that I've attached to my AeroGarden, because again, when the root structure gets really gigantic, I'll show you what my tomato roots look like it's huge. So when the root structure gets really gigantic, you're gonna be watering every second day, like certainly when I had my jalapenos in there, and my peppers, and my tomatoes, it took a lot of water, and I was watering it every second day. Now when you water it, you just lift this up, you fill the water up to that line. Again, on these units, on the front, on the bottom, it will tell you what it needs. This will flash red when it needs more plant food. This will let you know when it needs more water, and give you a close-up of my jalapenos. So this is the one that was topped. So you can see I've got new leaf growth on that one. And this is the one that wasn't topped. So you can see I've got these tiny, tiny little flowers that will turn into jalapeno peppers. And they're everywhere. They're kind of in here. You can see little ones up here, through here, and they'll slowly, slowly look more and more like peppers as time goes on. And anyway, that is the AeroGarden Harvest. Oh, one last thing. It's one of the quieter units. The AeroGarden 6-Pod Classic is quite noisy, so this is the quieter version. Well, that's everything you need to know about the AeroGarden Harvest unit. And, you know, the tricky points of the Salsa Kit that I chose for the first time out. Again, if these videos are helpful to you, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.